This woman has a newborn baby and is already getting started with the indoctrination.
As you can see, my son is a white male, so here are some books that I bought to help prevent him from growing up to be awful. Starting out strong, we have C is for consent. Pretty self-explanatory. Because I'm raising a feminist, we've got A is for awesome, 23 inspirational women. Next, we have I clean like daddy. There's even a page in the end where the whole family is cleaning together to show that it's not just mom and sister's job. Finally, we have Except When They Don't, a book about boys and girls liking whatever they want, regardless of their gender.
I don't want my baby growing up to be an awful white male. It's your child! Somebody says, just don't be a bad parent and you won't have to worry about that. Exactly. Why is there no books about race and diversity if you don't want him growing up to be awful? Why, Mom? Why?
This kid is probably too scared to tell his mom he's straight. She degraded her own child based on his race and gender. That's just unreal.
The dominant narrative in America is white people are evil, white people suck, we should be ashamed of ourselves.
I don't think we should be ashamed of ourselves. I think that we should take responsibility for the system that we've created.
The best system in the world?
Oh, we do not have the best system in the world.
Who has a better system?
There are many European countries that are much better off
Oh,
than
you
us.
mean European countries with a higher density of whites, like Northern Europe?
That's one way to phrase it, I guess.
You don't mean Turkey. You don't mean Eastern Europe, the communists. So the only time you can come up with a system that's better than America, it's a country that's more white than America.
That reply was way too sharp for her to respond to. Pure class. America's system is broken. Inflation and these strange political and social movements are the biggest issues.
I didn't know that I was going to be sitting talking to a bunch of illiterate people who don't know how to read, but,
You're literally 15. What do you know?
You know how to read?
Yes, I do know how to read.
Name 10 books.
Are you serious?
Yes, 100%. Name 10 books.
Well, I read Game of Thrones. I'm obsessed with, like, the Twilight series. Game of Thrones, the series?
What's the book called? It's not called Game of Thrones.
What book did you just say before that?
She's just trying to come up with a bunch of nonsense and she can't name any actual books.
Bro, shut up, kid! I'm sorry if I said the wrong thing. I was obsessed with the show Game of Thrones, and I started reading the... And can you let me finish? Bro, can you shut up if I could talk?
That girl should be embarrassed for naming Game of Thrones and Twilight while wearing a shirt that says porn star. Someone please pray for her. It's so sad.
Do you think that selling your news online and the money that you make from that translates to any sort of intelligence or skill?
I have a degree.
A degree in what?
Philosophy. I could go on to grad school and become a lawyer if I wanted.
That's a good point. You could have become a very well-respected lawyer, had a good career. What do you think your kids are gonna think when they said, oh, my mom had two options? They could have been a philosopher and a lawyer who made a lot of money, but they decided to be an online for 2 years, and then when they got ugly, now nobody wants to hire them anymore because they ruined their name and their reputation.
I think it's not 1950 anymore, and people don't really think like this.
I don't think it's 1950 anymore. Great insight. Now, can we get back to the actual conversation? She's lucky she didn't have to name 10 books.
This is just a reminder for men that scientists have now discovered a way for women to impregnate themselves using their own bone marrow, and the only child that can result from those pregnancies are female. So we no longer have any need for you genetically or physically. So, tread lightly.
That is not true at all. That's not even a little true. So put down the mascara, honey, and use your brain for a minute, if you have one. You actually think that women can impregnate themselves? And that isn't a big deal to you? Besides, if you don't need no man, as you suggest, then I sure hope you don't expect men to pay for your meals when you go out on a date. I hope when that check comes, you're reaching for it every single time. But as we know, classic thing, I have never heard of a feminist who remains a feminist when the check hits the table. That doesn't work, does it?
I'm really concerned about these feminists becoming mothers. Imagine them raising kids to think they don't need men. That's a horrifying thought.
Can you identify as a black person?
No.
Why?
Because I'm not black.
I'm not a woman, but I can identify as a woman according to you.
If you transition, maybe.
What defines a transition?
Like, if that's your goal, you know?
If you believe it.
Sure.
If you believe you're black, why aren't you black?
Well, that's like genetics. That's like ancestry. Like, you're black, right?
You're also born a man or a woman. It's the same thing. That's also genetics.
Okay, I'm over it.
They just can't handle the truth because it's too overwhelming for them. Even the simplest logic will end their arguments or leave them screeching and throwing tantrums.
It
Yeah, I
sounds
guess
to
that would
me
be
like you're conflating wokeism with feminism. Feminism is a rejection of patriarchy. That's all it is. The entailment of egalitarianism between men and women is a rejection of patriarchy. Who's the oppressor if you're trying to be equal with the opposite sex? Men are the oppressors. So it's a movement to reject patriarchal structures. That's what feminism is.
So I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I would say it extends a lot beyond just that.
Yeah, but I think it's because you conflate wokeism with feminism. Feminism is simply put a rejection of patriarchal structures. That's it. If you're thinking about things like the destruction of the nuclear family, this type of thing, the nuclear family has a head. The head is the man. If you have the extended cross-generational family, that's also a patriarchal system. The head is the man. If you're talking about the dismantling of the church is patriarchal. Christianity is a patriarchal structure. It's the rejection of patriarchy across the board. The entire movement of feminism has nothing to do with egalitarianism at all. It has to do with dismantling patriarchy. That is what the ultimate goal is.
He brings up something really important here. One big issue is definitions. This is what it means to me. I've found that when debating someone, especially on the left, you need to establish clear definitions or you're both talking past each other. People often create their own definitions that don't match the real meanings.
Come towards you? Do they target you?
Well, yeah, feminists, the reason I upset feminists so much is because the typical feminist tactic is to cancel somebody, right? To come at somebody and call them misogynist and call them all these things, and then that person loses their career or their slander. You can't slander me because I have fuck you money and you can't take it away. So I'll say what I want because I'm a realist, and when you're a realist, you're sexist. There's no way you can be rooted in reality and not be sexist.
Who are the primary victims of war?
I'll say women.
Why?
Okay.
How?
I mean, I guess the outcomes of going to war, like what happens with women and like cities that are invaded.
So let's assume military deaths are like nearly exclusively male. Like 99.99% male.
If
All
you're cutting
war.
out civilian casualties to prove this point.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
Then men.
but he can, especially since you're specifically looking at the United States. So, for instance, of the 292,000 members of the U.S. military who were killed by enemy fire, 16 of them total were female. 16.
Of the United States, yeah.
Total. 16 from the United States for all of World War II. All of it.
So I disagree with you. I think women want to be on OnlyFans because they enjoy being on. So I've interviewed so many workers, they just like it. They get off on being naked in front of men.
But the men are there to be in front of.
Yeah, but they're also there to be in front of when they walk outside. And I see this when I go to Vegas. Women just get naked on the street. I've never seen women fight harder for anything than the ability to be naked and the ability to be
I'm not trying to blame it all on men, but at the end of the day, it is like a...
Even if there was no OnlyFans market, like women would still figure out. There's been escorts, prostitutes, that's like the world's oldest profession. That's always gonna happen.
We appreciate you tuning into MGTOW Voice. Please express your appreciation by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to our channel. Help us promote support for men globally by contributing. We encourage you to comment and share your opinions. We welcome healthy debates and discussions.